recent court victories could signal even more good news this October from the nation's Supreme Court. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. This is Breakpoint. Earlier this week, the Supreme Court of Arizona issued an important decision in the Brush and Nib versus the City of Phoenix case, another one located squarely at the intersection of religious freedom and the new sexual orthodoxy. The case dates back to 2013, when the City of Phoenix, in the name of public accommodation, enacted an ordinance prohibiting any discrimination against persons based on sexual orientation, among other things. The ordinance also clearly prohibited directly or indirectly displaying, circulating, publicizing, or mailing any communication which states or implies that any facility or service shall be refused because of a person's status. Well, in 2016, the Alliance Defending Freedom filed a pre-enforcement challenge on behalf of Brush and Nib Studio, a Christian-owned business that creates custom wedding invitations. Now, what that means is, though the studio had not yet been asked to prepare invitations for a same-sex wedding, it was only a matter of time before they would be forced to make the same kind of choice that people like Jack Phillips have been forced to. That choice, ADF argued, would violate Arizona's Free Exercise of Religion Act. ADF also claimed the advertising restrictions violated the proprietor's free speech rights. Well, on Monday, the Arizona Supreme Court, by a 4-3 vote, sided with Brush and Nib and ADF. That's really good news. Even better news is that just like that recent decision issued by the 8th Circuit Court, the majority opinion by Justice Andrew Gould was loaded with incredibly clear and helpful language about the nature of our religious freedoms. The enduring strength of the First Amendment, Gould wrote, is that it allows people to speak their minds and express their beliefs without government interference. But here, the city effectively cuts off Brush and Nib's right to express their beliefs about same-sex marriage by telling them what they can and cannot say. Rejecting the city's argument that Brush and Nib's custom wedding invitations are fungible products like a hamburger or a pair of shoes, Justice Gould acknowledged the many hours Brush and Nib owners Joanna Duca and Brianna Koski spend, quote, designing and painting custom paintings, writing words and phrases, and drawing images and calligraphy. Because Duca and Koski are involved in every aspect of designing and creating invitations, he continued, and they retain substantial artistic control over the messages that are expressed in the invitations, well, they're more than mere scribes. Thus, to compel them to create custom invitations is to compel them to endorse the message in those invitations, which the Arizona Constitution forbids. Well, look, this strong language, in addition to the strong language issued by the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals in favor of Christian videographers Angel and Carl Larson in their case against a Minnesota SOGI law, means that the courts have clarified the sort of protections that speech should have in our society. You might remember that the Supreme Court was hesitant to issue that same sort of sweeping language in Jack Phillips' case just a few years ago, focusing instead on the Colorado Civil Rights Commission outright hostility. Now, I'm glad that the court smacked the commission down for their hostility, but the question of speech protection remains, and that makes this Arizona ruling so important. As ADF's Kristen Wagoner put it, Justice Gould's opinion included ADF's arguments, quote, perfectly. Though Gould's opinion was specifically grounded in Arizona's Constitution, it's still applicable to the federal one. Brush and Nib versus Phoenix can serve as a kind of guide map for how other courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court, can and should think about the protections religious speech deserve. And like Wagoner, I'm thanking God for his favor and praying we are gaining momentum for the Supreme Court's upcoming October term. For Breakpoint, I'm John Stonestreet.